acts against the interest of the nation, as the state defines it. It's not socialism because there's no goal of abolishing private property or class hierarchy. In fact, fascism openly embraces hierarchy and believes inequality is natural.
Yeah, wow. Wow. Holy shit. Okay, you just hit the nail on the head, Jimmy. Wow. That is exactly right. That is correct. Yeah, socialism does want to eventually abolish private property and transition into a communist state. Okay, they want to abolish hierarchy and create an equal opportunity for all people. Okay, the National Socialists don't want to do any of that shit. They just want to kill you if you're not white. That's what they want to do.
It's not
That's their grand design. Welcome back to J-Star. I am your host, J-Star. It is fucking hot out today. God damn. Whew. But it's alright, because we've got JimmyTalks. Jimmy's going to help us out here.
Welcome back to
Jimmy
JimmyTalks.
Cool us off.
You guys really enjoyed my very simply explained video on fascism.
Yeah.
So let's continue.
So now you're making another one. So you already made a video explaining fascism. Now we're gonna do another video explaining fascism. Wonderful. Yeah. By the way, this video is called "The Difference Between National Socialism and Fascism," explained simply. I'll tell you what the difference between fascism and National Socialism is. Okay, National Socialism is fascism taken to its logical conclusion. Wow. Wow, who would have thought?
Compare fascism, Nazism, and National Socialism.
Nazism.
Because a lot of people use these words.
Nazism.
And you'll see it every single day that this is fascist.
I don't think that's how you say it.
You will hear people say you are a Nazi, even if you're completely not a National Socialist. I mean,
well, if you are a Nazi, then I'm going to call you a Nazi. It doesn't matter if you walk around saying, I'm a Nazi or not. If I think you're a Nazi, I'm going to call you one.
Of the Germans in the 1930s.
Just like anyone else.
That policy is literally National Socialism. You hear that about Trump all the time, too. I'm like, Trump's kind of a libtard at the end of the day. If you really know what the paradigms are for, how politics works, like Trump's really not anything special. He's just kind of like every other president. But anyways, 95% of the people saying this stuff.
No. He's not like every other president. He is kind of a libtard, yeah. I agree with that. Okay. But let's be so for real. He has gone way past the pale of what the average liberal president would do. Okay, he has. That's just an objective fact. He has instated fascist policy through unconstitutional means. That is just the reality. And that's exactly what Hitler would do if he were president.
Both
wow.
on the left and the right. Even centrists. People don't actually know what Mussolini is or who he is, what he believes. They never read any of Hitler's writings or beliefs.
But what most people aren't ready to hear is that Hitler was a libtard. Okay, he was. Okay, and what I mean by that is when JimmyTalks calls Trump a libtard, the reason that I say he's kind of right is that Trump has his liberal sympathies, right? He has his lived up moments. And that's for two reasons. Number one, firstly, it's because everybody is a liberal. Okay, everybody is a fucking libtard at the end of the day. Everybody's a liberal. Everybody has their liberal values. They just pick and choose which ones they have. Okay, Trump is no exception. Number two, Trump actually has no real ideological backbone. Okay, he's hollow. Okay, he has no ideology, and this has been like very apparent for just a long time. Okay, it's just that none of those things means that he isn't a fascist. Okay, like the being a liberal and being a fascist, these aren't mutually exclusive. Okay, they aren't. You can be both.
Never read a single line of actual doctrine. They know that these words are just a slur now. It's something you can just yell at somebody if you disagree with them, so you don't have to actually argue with them. But that's actually a problem, because if you can't...
And the reason that sounds antithetical, right? Or the reason that it sounds like I'm wrong when I say that is because, number one, fascism condemns liberalism. They reject it, okay, in writing, okay? It's just that they don't really reject free market values, individuality, and the equality of their chosen people, okay? Like, basically, the fascists want to do liberalism, but for white people, or for whoever it is, for Christian people, okay, whatever has been decided, for Catholics, okay, whatever the fascist party decides is the chosen people, that's what they do. All right. Now, with that being said, that doesn't mean that a fascist doesn't have libtard moments. Okay, they do, and that kind of makes them liberal. Interesting. Anyway.
Define something, you can't diagnose somebody.
Oh yeah, but the other reason that people will be like, oh no, you're wrong, like Hitler wasn't a liberal, dumbass, okay, is because liberals are what? Liberals are progressive. Okay, and fascists, they aren't really about progress, right? They want to, like, go back to the golden age. They want to, like, they're all about bygone times, okay? They want to, like, rebuild what was lost, right, in the national mythos of their country. But the thing is, progress isn't necessarily, like, progress isn't a necessity for being a liberal, okay? To be a liberal, or to believe in liberalism, you need two things, okay? Individuality and a desire for equality. So, like, free market individuality and equality, okay? And these two things, they pull at each other. They're inherently contradictory. That's the whole, like, the effectiveness of liberalism. It's like a kind of like a balancing act, okay? It's incoherent on purpose, by design. Okay. Fascists, they like to pretend like they don't have this inherent contradiction in their ideology. It's just that they do. Because what do they believe in? They believe in free market individuality, and they believe in equality of opportunity for their chosen people. Okay, like the fascist imagines a hierarchy that is based on race or religion. I'll be right back. And we're back to Jimmy Talks.
You can't even identify these things in the real world if you don't even know what it is. You can't have intelligent conversations about politics, history, or ideology if you're just throwing around words you don't understand. So, anyways, let's get into it. It's a minute and 30 seconds, guys. I watch YouTube too. I want motherfuckers to just get to the point. But anyways, let's start with fascism because it's the oldest of the three, and it's the parent category, so to say, that everything else gets lumped into, whether it's correct or not. So, originally, fascism comes from Italy. The word itself means fascis, which was a bundle of rods, a bundle of sticks, tied together around an axe, and it's an old Roman symbol. That symbol used to actually stand for authority and unity, which is kind of just the generalized idea of what fascism is. It's the idea of individual sticks are weak on their own. You can just break them. But if they're all tied together, then they're strong. So Benito Mussolini founded the fascist movement in 1919, very long time ago by now, and he went into power in Italy in 1922. So fascism, in its own words,
then what happened?
Doctrine is built around a few core ideas. The first one is extreme nationalism. It's the absolute supremacy of the state over the individual. The individual exists to serve the nation, not the other way around. Fascism rejects liberal democracy. It rejects Marxism and its Marxist idea of class struggle. It rejects individualism and instead proposes a totalitarian state where every single institution, whether that be labor or industry or culture or education, literally everything is integrated into and controlled by the state. This is called corporatism, not in the sense of corporations running things like a company, but in the sense of society being organized into like bodies.
Well, it is about individuality. Okay, it is about, just not in the same way that liberalism is about individuality. All right, let me explain. Fascism is all about building a collective, a group, a movement of the nationals, right? The nationalists, the true heirs to the country, whatever country it is. And this is, guess what, on the basis of their identity, of their heritage, of their identity. Okay? Whoever they may be. In Germany, the Nazis, their idea was it would be based on race. Okay? The German race being the most superior to all other races, of course. And the more purely German you were, the better you were. And in other fascist movements, it has been a little different. Okay, they've done it based on religion, on like family, dynasty, family heritage, that sort of thing. The Nazis were the ones that did racism. Okay, they modeled their ideology, their fascist ideology, after the American racism. Okay, and the chattel slavery system. Okay, this is true, by the way. The Nazis, they were inspired by what our ancestors here in America were doing during the slavery times, during the enslavement.
It's all
of
directed by the
innocent
state
people.
towards national unity and strength. Now, for economics in the fascist system, fascism is often described by fascists themselves as a third position. It's not capitalism, it's not communism, it's something else entirely. For example, private property still exists. Businesses are technically still private owned, but the state directs the economy towards national goals, and it mediates between the worker and companies, and they will absolutely step in and crush any business.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that does kind of sound like liberalism. Wow. Wow, yeah, that sounds like a free market with some regulation. Wow. It's just that this time, under fascism, as opposed to liberalism, the regulation is all about creating the most stuff for war so that we can kill people and enslave them in fun little work camps. Hooray!
That acts against the interests of the nation, as the state defines it. It's not socialism because there's no goal of abolishing private property or class hierarchy. In fact, fascism openly embraces hierarchy and believes inequality is natural.
Yeah, wow! 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 Holy shit. Okay, you just hit the nail on the head, Jimmy. Wow. That is exactly right. That is correct. Yeah, socialism does want to eventually abolish private property and transition into a communist state. Okay, they want to abolish hierarchy and create an equal opportunity for all people. Okay, the National Socialists don't want to do any of that shit. They just want to kill you if you're not white. That's what they want to do.
It's not
That's their grand design.
The market answers to the state, not the other way around. Fascism glorifies struggle, it glorifies war and hierarchy, and it also has a cult of a leader, Il Duce, the guy at the top who embodies the will of the nation. This was Mussolini, and it was also Hitler.
Yes, this is all 100%. He's reading this from AI. He's got, I mean, this is just very basic stuff. Like, yeah, what? No shit. Wow. National mythos. Central authoritarian figure. Cult of personality. No. Oh, I can't. Yo, this is what fascism is. Wow, yeah, wow, man. Alright, well, let's keep going.
Historically, fascism did not require a racial theory. This is one of the biggest differences between fascism and National Socialism, which I will get into. Mussolini's fascism was not built around race science or biology or anything like that. It was just built around Italy.
Okay, well, that's not the claim. Okay, that's not the claim being made by... Nobody has said that the fascists in Italy are exactly like the fucking Nazis. Okay, but they are both fascist, and that's why they fucking teamed up. That's why they did an Avengers Assemble. Okay, they dapped each other up, bro. Okay, it's because fascism is the foundation of Nazism, and Nazism is actually just the logical conclusion if you believe the assumptions made by fascism as an ideology. Okay, you take fascism to its logical conclusion, you end up with Nazism, or something like it. Okay, but let's keep
wanted
going.
to bring back the Roman civilization. That's really what he was interested in. Mussolini didn't have any race laws until 1938, and it was largely
Okay. So, how do you go back to the before time? Okay, which is the whole question of yes, this is exactly correct. Fascism is all about a return to the golden age, or at least what is perceived as the golden age by the fascist party. In America, that would be the 1950s America. Okay, where you could buy a house and a car on one little salary at fucking McDonald's or whatever. Okay, you buy a house for a couple of plums and an orange. Alright, that was life back then. People look at that now and it's like a fantasy. It's like a dreamland. Oh, I wish we could go back to that. That's fascism, okay? It's a bygone era. You can't turn back the clock. You can't do that. But you can do the same things, you can pass the same policies, the same laws that got them to the 1950s in the first place, which was of course done by radical communist FDR.
Because he was
President Roosevelt.
Not because it was in his doctrine from day
one.
one. He actually didn't care about that at all. Fascist Italy also had a deal with the Catholic Church in the late 1920s, and it made the church a recognized cooperating institution inside of the fascist state. Religion wasn't the enemy of Italian fascism. It was folded in as another pillar of national identity. That is a big distinction, and it's the first thing that almost everybody gets wrong. Now, let's talk about National Socialism, which is not
Same thing. Hold on, wait. Say that again, man.
The late 19 doctrine from day one. He actually didn't care about that at all. Fascist Italy also had a deal with the Catholic Church in the late 1920s, and it made the church a recognized cooperating institution inside of the fascist state. Religion wasn't the enemy of Italian fascism. It was folded in as another pillar of national identity. That is a big distinction, and it's the first thing that almost everybody gets wrong. Now, let's talk about
okay, no shit. Yeah, what are Italians? Religiously. Do you think that libtards believe that Mussolini wanted to go back to fucking polytheistic, believe in all the Roman gods? Are you stupid?
Socialism, which is Nazism. Same thing. Nazi is just it's a short-term form for National Socialist, which is spelled differently in German. You have to say this plainly because people hear fascism, Nazism, and National Socialism
differently.
Like they're three separate
things. Wow, it's spelled differently in another language. No shit. Yeah, wow, look at me, guys. I know things. I know about language.
They are not three separate
spelled
things.
Differently.
Nazism and National Socialism are the same exact thing. Just one is a nickname and one is a formal name. The real comparison here is fascism as the broader category versus National Socialism as a specific offshoot, so to say, right? National Socialism came out of Germany in the 1920s under Adolf Hitler and the National Socialist German Workers' Party. And on the surface, it kind of looks similar to fascism because it does share a lot of similarities with fascism, specifically the Italian.
No, it's not just similar to fascism, it is fascism. Mussolini had problems with the Nazis, okay, because of course he did. He created fascism, and then the Nazis took it to its logical conclusion, and they were like, look at us, we're doing fascism. And Mussolini was like, wait, you guys are not nearly libtarded enough. You're ultras, okay? Because that's the thing. When you are a relative moderate, and especially if you invent a new ideology, right? And then you become the moderate. And like Mussolini's fascism, his doctrine was extreme. Okay, in his time, in his place, it was pushing boundaries. Of course, it's fascism. Okay, what are we talking about? Like, yeah, read this shit and understand where Italy was at the time, and it's easy to see. Okay, he was pushing boundaries, and then he almost immediately, basically, just got outshined, outperformed by the National Socialist Party in Germany, in the Weimar Republic. So Mussolini, he didn't really like what the Nazis were doing specifically. I think that he formed an alliance with them because they were ideologically, they were fascists. They were fascism, dude. How do I explain? So the reason Mussolini didn't like the Nazis is for two reasons, okay? They were too racist, alright? That was number one. And they were all about racial purity, right? Mussolini didn't really like that. Okay, he thought it was a bad look. And he thought that they were too communist. Okay, Mussolini felt like the Nazis were, like, communist. Which sounds ridiculous, right, to every normal person that knows anything about the Nazis, because they fucking murdered every communist they could find at the jump. Like, that was at the beginning. Okay. But it's true. Mussolini did feel that way about them. He thought that they were, like, woke or whatever. But, I mean, not... obviously, they didn't really have that word back then. Or at least they weren't using it. So... he thought that they were too populist, basically. The Nazis, they strategically called themselves socialist and, tacitly supported socialist policy because it was popular. And they needed all the help that they could get. But real socialist, real communist, they saw through it, okay? Because... you see, communism and socialism is all about solidarity between people, regardless of their identity. And the Nazis were, all about racism and shit. So, they were kind of like, something doesn't feel right about this. Something's not right.
Totalitarian one-party states, the cult of the leader, rejection of liberal democracy, rejection of Marxism, glorification of struggle and militarism. But it is different, and it's the single most important distinction that I will probably make in this whole entire video. So, the biggest difference between fascism and National Socialism and what makes them different is that fascism organizes society around the state. National Socialism organizes society around race. So, for the Nazis in the 1930s, the fundamental unit of history was not the nation state, it was the Volk, which is people in German. And when the Germans said the Volk, which is very similar to the word folk in English, it means people, it means nation.
Yeah, it's literally, you don't speak German, so, you couldn't know, because you're a dumbass that doesn't even speak German. Fucking loser. Okay, but I speak German, and in fact, while the spelling, the letters are different, it's actually pronounced in the exact same way. Okay, English, folk, German, folk. Okay, that's how they say it. The reason why is because V's are pronounced like F's in English, right? The German V is pronounced like the English F. Okay. And the thing is, the weird part is that the German F is also pronounced like English F. Okay, so I don't make the rules, but typically words in German, they don't ever start with the letter F. At least I can't think of any. Some names do. Okay, but like regular words, they usually don't. And so, the German V, usually, if a word is going to start with the letter F sound, then it's going to start with a V in German, typically. Anyway, you might be wondering, if the V in German makes an F sound, then what the fuck makes a V sound? And the answer is W. For some reason, it's W. Okay, or Doppelwehr in German. Okay, for some reason, W makes the V sound. Okay, I don't know why. But that's, Weimar Republic. Wurst, right, the word for sausage. Or Wurst, Bratwurst. Right. That word starts with W. Wurst. Anyway. I can't remember what Wurst means. It doesn't mean sausage. Wait, let me find out. It means, nothing. Or it means root? Yeah, like a Wurzelbehandlung. That means root canal treatment. Or Wurzelgemüse, which means root vegetables. But it doesn't seem to really mean anything on its own. Oh, okay, Wurzel. That's the word for root. I gotcha. Okay, anyway. Let's keep
He was
going.
talking specifically about the racial community of the German people, and specifically the Aryan race, which they place at the top of a biological hierarchy of humanity. Hitler's own writings in Mein Kampf has this out. He writes this specifically. He says history is a racial struggle, race is destiny, and the state itself is not the end goal. The state is just a vehicle.
Yeah, so basically, like, if you're a communist, right, if you're a socialist, that should sound really familiar if you've actually, like, read theory. Because Hitler basically just... Fuck. He basically just copied the communist bar for bar, okay, stole their whole fucking flow. He just replaced everything that he could with fucking racism. Okay, that's what he did. Yeah, history is a struggle between races. Wow, I wonder where he got that from.
It's like a tool to use to preserve and advance the race. That's a completely different sort of idea than Italian fascism. People get these mixed up all the time. That's okay. We're just not really taught this sort of stuff. I mean, it's not okay, but I understand where they're coming from is what I mean to say. Anyways, Mussolini...
And the reason he used this kind of language, it was intentional. Okay, he wanted to subvert the idea of communism and make it all racist. Because it being communist, being a communist might not be popular as like an identity, as a label, but communist policy, right, socialist policy, that is popular. So, reframing communism as like this, instead of a class struggle, it's a race struggle. That was Hitler's attempt to kind of soften his brand. Okay, which he was constantly doing.
Wanted a powerful Italian state. Hitler, on
and he was
wanted
good
a racially
at
pure German Volk, and the state was just the machine, the mechanism to get there. So this changes who each ideology treats as the enemy. So for Italian fascism, the enemy was mostly just political. For example, the enemies could be communists, it could be socialists. Well, could be, they were. It was also liberals. It was anyone that was undermining the unity of the country, as well as undermining the authority of the government. You could, in theory, just stop being the enemy if one were to just change their politics. On the other hand, for National Socialism, the enemy was defined biologically as well as politically. Obviously, the Jewish people were specifically the threat to the National Socialists, regardless of if they were conservative or liberal, or even how wealthy they were. That was everybody knows that by now. But anyways, that is a fundamentally different kind of enemy than fascism's just pure political dissident, and it's why National Socialism had a little bit things that were different than fascism. Like in its original Italian form, fascism did not have the same things. There was no eugenics programs, for example, stuff like that. But anyways, the two ideologies also differed in what they wanted, what they were expanding for, right? So Mussolini, he invaded North Africa. He had an invasion of Ethiopia. His dreams were Mare Nostrum. It was a Mediterranean, Roman, Italian-style dominance, where they mostly had classical colonial ambitions, like the Roman Empire. He had a big love for the Roman Empire. He wanted to control territory and trade within it. On the other hand, Hitler's expansionism was a concept called Lebensraum, which is living space, and it was explicitly about getting economic self-sufficiency in agricultural land in the East, the Eastern European.
Yeah, wow, doesn't that sound familiar? Wow. For those of you that aren't following what I'm referring to, there has recently, Jimmy probably won't bring this up, although he should, even though it might not seem relevant. Alright. The Israelis right now are storming into Gaza, killing Arabs, and setting up their own homes in Gaza. Okay, this is what's happening, and they're calling it living space.
Country specifically
anyway,
for the German people to occupy and multiply and to live in. And he viewed these sorts of countries, these areas, these territories as essential for the long-term survival of Germany. So one basically was traditional Mediterranean imperial ambition. The other was a continental project that was kind of baked into the ideology's core logic, its core concept, the people. Now, let's look at religion, where with the fascist and National Socialist systems, how do they view religion? Well, Italian fascism, as I said earlier, they kind of made peace with the church, the Catholic Church in 1929, and they folded it into the state. Like I said, the fascists care all about the state, the National Socialism care about the people. National Socialism took a more complicated and eventually hostile road, but the popular narrative that the Nazi leadership was purely atheist or aggressively anti-Christian from day one is historically false. The NSDAP and the German population at large were overwhelmingly Christian. They were either Lutheran or Catholic. So to bridge that sort of gap with the people, the Germans had promoted what they called positive Christianity. It was kind of an ideological state-sanctioned push for religion. They knew, we need to bring the people together, and this is a big, easy way to do so. They said it was Aryanizing the Bible. So while people will say, oh, they were pagan or whatever, when we look at the history, the inner ideological core of the SS, for example, and people like Heinrich Himmler, some of them were genuinely...
I mean, they had no spirituality. These people had nothing, right? They were empty husk, most of them. Because if you are religious, you can't justify this shit. If you are genuinely a religious person, you cannot justify what the Nazis did. You can't. It is impossible. It just, like any religion. any fucking real. If you are, they were not Christian. Okay, they just weren't. But they did use Christianity as a tool. That is correct. Okay, and German people are Christian. But the persecution didn't. They didn't persecute Catholics because they hated religion, because they were like, because the Nazis were like these militant atheists. Okay, they just didn't care, right? They were. I believe, and I don't think there's like proof of this, right? But I think that the Nazis were mostly atheist, opportunistically Christian, when it served them. But that's the thing. It kind of stopped serving them. And when a Catholic priest started speaking out against the Nazi party and what the regime was doing, guess what happened to them? I'm gonna let you figure that one out.
Hostile to Christianity, and they wanted to replace it with German neo-paganism. However, the party as a whole relied heavily on the existing Christian cultural identity and the church structures and nominal Christian adherence to maintain mass support among German people.
Yeah, again, when it served them, when it suited their purposes. But the Nazi party, especially as the years went on, but from the beginning, okay, they had their pagan roots. Like, these guys were not spiritually consistent within the party, really within the individual. I don't think. Because they didn't care. They just wanted to commit horrible atrocities because the Nazis were, get this, psychopaths that wanted to, like, kill and torture for no greater good, for no purpose. Okay, that's what I think. And it's not that they were evil or whatever. It's not like, I'm not just, like, making this to say, like, they were evil, that's it, okay, done, end of story. They were products of their environment. And they were opportunistic as well. They took advantage of the environment around them. And that's how Hitler seized control over Germany, to commit these atrocities. Okay, so that's
one
it.
kind of used it as a tool, and the other one brought it in but said you have to listen to us.
To elevate other psychopaths.
Like I said, the state and the people, they're both different. Yes, the fascists were all about the state and the National Socialists were about the people, but the mechanisms to carry out what they wanted were pretty much the same. So, to put it simply, fascism historically and in its own self-definition is state first. It's nation first, and it's about total unity of a nation under an authoritarian government with private property and religion left standing as long as they serve the state. National Socialism is race first, and the state, the economy, and even religion are tools that are used to serve that racial project. Almost every serious historian will tell you National Socialism, Nazism, etc., is a subtype. It's kind of what I could best describe as a mutation of fascism. But it's
no, it's not. See, that's where you are fucking delusional, man. Fascism, Mussolini's fascism, the pure fascism, right? The fascism, it is never, ever going to just stay the same, right? You call it mutation. Okay, fine. Well, I think that is inaccurate, but we'll get to that. Okay, but if you want to go with mutation, right? Mutation is inevitable because fascism doesn't sit still. It's constantly evolving. The question is, based on your vocabulary that you've used, is what is it going to mutate into? Is it going to mutate into National Socialism? Maybe. Or is it going to be some other regime that commits a different type of atrocity? The dice are in your hands.
It added something different. It added racial biology and eugenics. So that is pretty much the big defining feature that separates it from fascism. So if you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. Fascism asks, what serves the nation? National Socialism asks, what serves the race? Every other difference between them, like economics, religion, expansion, the definition of the enemy, it flows directly out of that one root difference. Now, let's bring this into the modern day because this is where a lot of ignorance really starts to show up, unfortunately. If you just wanted to hear the difference between National Socialism and fascism, you can probably just click off the video now. This is just an extra tidbit of modern times. But anyways, you will hear people call literally any nationalist or any traditionalist, any populist, any Christian conservative a fascist or a Nazi. That is almost always historically illiterate. Wanting border security, for example, and wanting more ICE agents is not fascism. It's not at all.
Okay, yeah. See, libtards are not against border security. They're not. Okay, me personally, I would love to see the dissolution of borders in the long term. Right, but that's way out, okay? Alright, that's just me. Hey, you know me. right? I'm woke as fuck. I'm woke up to my eyeballs. But libtards don't even think that. You know, they just don't want, the ICE Gestapo secret police to kidnap their neighbors and torture them and murderize them and hack up their body parts and fucking leave them out in the sun for the fucking satellites to capture on Google Earth. Yes, that's real, by the way. And anyway, what were we talking about?
Oh,
I forgot.
Wanting your country to have a cultural identity is also not fascism. Being religious, being against globalism, being against communism, none of that is fascism by definition. And slapping that label on is either laziness or just
Yeah, no, nobody's saying that, though, right? Nobody's saying that you're a fascist because you're anti-communist, okay? Libtards are anti-communist, by and large. Right, maybe some of them are like kinda, you know, coming around to it, especially these days, but like liberals aren't communists, they aren't fascists, they're liberals. Okay, it's a different thing. But anyway, you're not a fascist because you're anti-communist. You're a fascist because you believe in fascism, whether you admit it or not.
deliberate rhetorical trick that's used to shut down debates without having to make an actual argument. Are there any real-life examples, like right now, modern examples is what I mean to say, of like National Socialists or fascist groups? I don't know about Europe and all that because I don't pay too much attention to Europe, obviously, because I'm American. This is an American politics channel. I do pay attention to Europe, but obviously I pay way more attention to America. It's my country. But here in America, there's not really a lot of those groups today. A lot of them are minuscule and they have zero actual political power. The only reason I mention this is because you'll have groups like maybe Patriot Front, for example. They present themselves mostly as American nationalists. They're very big on Americanism, and they don't present themselves as Nazis. And calling them literally Nazis reborn, which is typically liberals who do this, is actually just historically sloppy. It's inaccurate. Precision matters.
No, wait, but you just said that... Okay, so you just got done saying that fascism is broad, which it is. Okay. And then you were talking about how the Nazis are like a mutation. Okay. Alright, so Patriot Front is, a mutation of fascism. That's what it is. Okay, and it's not a mutation. It's what I've been saying from the beginning, which is a natural endpoint of fascism. It's the logical conclusion. That's what it is. Facts and logic.
When we have to define these, because then you can't have an intelligent conversation with people, and that is just how we go down the wrong path. And unfortunately, it seems like we've gone down the wrong path for a very long time now for a myriad of different reasons. But I digress. Talking, I don't think there's going to be talking in the future. I'm not going to sit here and predict there's going to be a civil war. I don't know when or what or how that would even happen, but I do think a lot of people are kind of just sick of everything, unfortunately. But anyways,
I like it how earlier he defined fascism, and then he went on to describe the Patriot Front as nationalist, what he said, like Americanism. Yeah, Jimmy, I think you have brain damage, man.
Knowing what words mean is very important. If you've been watching,
are you on
drugs? I always say that, guys. We need to know what words mean. It's very important. This is just one example why it is. Ignorance is not a virtue. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're even on. You need to know what you're talking about, or just honestly, don't talk about it at all. All right, guys, that's just a short explanation, very surface level differences between fascism and National Socialism. If you enjoyed this sort of content, I will go ahead, leave a comment. Tell me what else you want to see in the comments below. Hey, Jimmy, can you explain simply what XYZ ideology is? And if it's a good one, I will be obliged to do it. I make videos.
Okay, I don't want you to explain simply. I want you to get into it, Jimmy. Like, come on. Why are we doing this? You know, you've been talking about, you already made a video explaining fascism. You talked a lot in that video about how the Nazis were not fascist, right? And that was fucking stupid. Now you've made a video where you've basically repeated the same talking points. And, it's just kind of ridiculous. You know, like, you already explained it simply, in your own words. Now you're explaining it simply again, just because you forgot some shit.
For you guys, I mean, I make
like, come on, it's time for the more nuanced takes. It's time, like, this is video number 2 on this topic. It's time for the It's time for Mr.
Well, obviously. But
Nuance
if you guys want to see
Talks to
something,
come
just
out.
let me know
Jimmy
down in the comments.
Nuance.
Don't forget to like the video. It really helps push it out in the algorithm. Why don't we just go and help people be more informed of what they're talking about? Fantastic stuff. Okay, guys. If you like this sort of content, though, go ahead and follow me on Rumble. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter. Links are in the description down below. And I have a Patreon for $5 a month. If you enjoy this content, because I don't take any corporate sponsorships or anything like that. I would say all of my Patreon members' names at the end of the video, like a shout out sort of thing. However, I just respect their privacy. Some of them may want that, and some of them may not want that. So if you support the Patreon, I see all of your names on there, and I really appreciate you guys one by one. Also, if you're on the Patreon, go ahead and message me. I will talk to you. You know, I'm just a normal ass guy. Hit me up. So, all right, guys, that's all for me today. God bless you and your families. I mean that when I say
Give
that.
me money! Give me money! I'm Jimmy! Give me money! Alright. That shit sucked.